Welcome back to another Bitcoin analysis video. Jumping straight in front of you, you can see the chart where we left it off yesterday. So we had this critical area where we were finding support on the back of this trend line and on this previous level. And I was really hoping that we could find some solid support there and curve back around to the upside. But if we did continue to fall, I was hoping that we wouldn't fall any further than 10,775-ish. And that area would be the lowest where I would consider this still a legitimate retest of the trend line. And if we started to fall further from there, I would expect a bit more downward action. So as we can see, as we play it out, we really tried hard to stay above this area. We took this drop here, but we did stay above this 10.7 area. We fired straight back up, which gave me a lot of confidence that we really wanted to stay above that area. But then as you can see, we just collapsed at this point. And on this candle here, we made it below this area, but only just. But we did marginally close below this low. And this is a bad sign. And although you can't see it on this chart, when I was watching this in real time, we probed lower down here and we started to really climb. And it looked like we might be forming a hammer. And that would have been a very good sign if we could probe down below that area, take out a few stops, and then form a hammer into this area. That would be a great sign to start moving upwards again. But unfortunately, we didn't form that hammer. We continued down and we closed below this area. Only slightly, but we did actually find a close below there. And then the next candle is even more alarming to me, which is this one here where we moved up and we actually retested this support as new resistance. So obviously this isn't across a larger time frame, which is what I like to see when I'm trading, but the market's fractal. So these patterns happen on the 1 minute as they happen on the weekly and the monthly. But in this case, we dropped down from here, but we found some support here and we shot back up. Then we broke solidly through that support, and on the next candle came up and retested that support from below as new resistance, and then came plunging down again and formed this big wick, and we got a very solid close below this whole area. So that was quite an alarming sign that made me think that this wasn't just a slight probe downwards, but this was a concerted move downwards. So if we continue playing it from here, the next candle after this one was quite a strange one, because we got this hammer forming, like a really textbook perfect hammer really, into this area of previous resistance. So despite what I've just said about expecting a potential larger move down because of this price action here, we end up getting a very bullish sign where we get a hammer off a previous resistance area. The next candle tries to move lower, can't break the hammer's low, and forms a bit of a wick as well. Another bullish sign. Next candle, straight up. So at this point, I was hoping that one thing didn't happen. And that was that we didn't retest this support again as resistance and then move lower. Because if we did, then that's a really big sign that the sellers really want a piece of the action here, and the price is coming back up into this previous support, and the sellers are piling in again and forcing the market down. So we'll play it out. And then that happened, which honestly is even worse than the scenario that I just explained where we retest this support, because we not only came back up into this area to retest the support, but we also retested the trend line, but from below. Which means that this whole area that was support for us previously and that we were hoping would hold solid support and we could curve back round is now acting entirely as solid resistance. And we've broken down and we've tested it, and now we're testing the back of this trend line and we're moving down, making new lows below here. So that's even more of a sign that we're going to see some further downward action. There's just some very bearish price action here. The way that we're retesting these solid areas and then immediately moving downwards. If we continue to play it out from here, I think this is current real time. Yep, it is. And again, we had this area of support where we came down, bounced from here, and then we found this breakdown. And then what did the next candles do? Yeah. they came up and retested this area as resistance before we continue to move down. So overall, this is quite bearish, and I do hope now, as I mentioned in the previous video, that this zone here, 10.4, this is the next big area to be looking at. And we are approaching it now, and the price action somewhat looks like it's slowing down, but you never can tell with Bitcoin. It can just consolidate, and then plunge $1,000, so you don't know. But I'm looking to this 10.4 area as the next area to hold. And if we break below that, I can't see much more happening other than we drop down to this 9.798 area, because if we look at the chart in here, there's just really not a lot going on where we could pinpoint a really solid area of support in this area. If we break down from 10.4, the next really solid area that I expect is down here at the 9.798 area. So what may happen is we turn slightly ahead of this area, because quite often when there is an area that's this obvious on the chart, a lot of people try to front run it. So we may turn around at 9.9 or 9.8 instead of dropping all the way down to the 9.7, but who knows. But first of all, we need to watch this 10.4 area before we start considering this 9.7 area. So now I'll just put the chart on auto and take a zoom out and see if there's any interesting areas that we can draw any fib levels on. So I'll just draw from this previous major swing up to here. And as we can see, the 50% fib is actually currently where the price action is. And there's a little bit of a high back here, which I hadn't marked on the chart before because we chopped through this area quite a lot. So I must have removed it or just not noticed it. So we do have a bit of that. We've got this 50% fib. And then interestingly, the low of this little swing low is on the 61 fib. So what it looks like to me is we have a huge zone here. So we've got a zone from this area around 10.5 all the way down to 10.2, which is between the 50% fib and the 61 fib. And we've also got some swing highs in here, some congestion here, and then this swing low in here. So again, my hourly line is about in the middle of this whole zone, which is always, like I've mentioned in the drawing of levels, that's what we want. We want to be roughly in the middle of any zones. So we've got that in there. But I think we could come as low as 10.2 or turn here at 10.5, and it would still be valid within this level. For today, this is what I'm doing. I'm just going to intently watch this zone, see what happens, watch the price action, see if I think that we're going to get a turnaround. But in this area, I'm not immediately going to be looking for trades because we're suffering for the same thing that we were last Friday, which is if we do get long here, we're facing this immediate resistance of the back of the trend line. I mean, you could look for a trade up to the trend line, but that's quite a short-term trade, and that's not something that I'm looking for at the minute. So I'm just going to watch the price action at this point, see what's happening, and then hopefully we can get a turnaround and a long setup. And if I think that we're going to continue to the downside, maybe if we break below this zone, retest it from below, I might look to get short down into the 9.7 area. But I guess we're just going to have to see how it plays out. So as has been the theme recently, I'm just really going to sit on the sidelines and not do very much. It's interesting to watch it play out nonetheless. But anyway, I think for today, that's all I have to say. So I will see you tomorrow.